After a week of reruns, I think most Beyond the Gates fans are more than ready for new episodes. And from the looks of it, the show is coming back with plenty of drama at exactly the right time as sweep season heats up. The biggest moment heading into Monday's episode appears to center around Tomas and Kat. I was wondering if the long-awaited proposal we've been expecting will finally happen during this episode. The previews for the week show Tomas getting down on one knee in front of the Dupree family, which suggests he's ready to take a major step forward in their relationship. What caught my attention is the possibility that Kat may not give him the answer he's hoping for. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could easily see her responding with something less definitive than an enthusiastic yes. A maybe isn't a rejection, but it certainly isn't the fairy tale answer Tomas has probably imagined after putting so much thought and effort into the proposal. If that happens, I think it would completely catch him off guard. Of course, Kat may end up surprising Tomas just as much as he surprises her. Their relationship has always had an unpredictable edge, and this could become one of those moments that changes everything for them moving forward. Meanwhile, Leslie appears determined to prove that she's serious about changing her ways. After nearly losing Eva, I think the experience may have genuinely shaken her. The fact that Eva survived, especially with help coming from someone Leslie never expected, seems to have given her a new perspective. That's why I'm curious about the special gift Leslie plans to give her daughter. To me, it feels less like a simple present and more like an attempt to rebuild trust and show Eva just how much she means to her. Whether that gesture is enough to repair all the damage remains to be seen, but it's a start. Elsewhere, Joey has another assignment for Randy, and this storyline raises plenty of questions. The spoilers suggest Randy won't be entirely comfortable with whatever he's being asked to do, which immediately makes me think there's more going on beneath the surface. It sounds like Joey may want Randy to reconnect with Deanna, someone Randy already has ties to through the family. I can't help wondering whether Joey's motives are protective or manipulative. On one hand, he clearly cares about Vanessa and her children and wants to keep them safe. On the other hand, considering the secrets he's already hiding, it's difficult to take any of his actions at face value. Maybe Joey simply wants another set of eyes watching over Deanna. Or maybe there's a more sinister reason behind the request that hasn't been revealed yet. Adding another layer to the mystery, Vanessa is set to share some news with Joey. I was wondering whether this will involve their business dealings or something much more personal. Either way, it feels like the kind of conversation that could shift the direction of their story. Overall, I think Monday's episode looks packed with the kind of twists, surprises, and larger-than-life moments that Beyond the Gates fans have come to expect. If these spoilers are any indication, the show isn't easing back into new episodes quietly. It's coming back ready to make some noise. I think the week of July 6th through July 10th on Beyond the Gates looks packed with suspicion, secrets, and at least one very public surprise proposal. The storyline that has me most curious revolves around Dani talking about cheating wives while carrying around a huge secret of her own. There is something fascinating about watching characters judge situations that mirror their own mistakes without fully recognizing the irony. Meanwhile, Joey Armstrong seems to be moving into dangerous territory again, and this time his attention is focused on Vanessa McBride's daughter, Deanna. Last Friday, Deanna made it very clear that she has no interest in giving Joey the benefit of the doubt. Even after Kat suggested that people can surprise you and admitted that she now sees Eva differently, Deanna refused to reconsider her opinion of Joey. From her perspective, some people simply don't deserve another chance. Then came one of the stranger moments outside Uptown, when Deanna encountered her late father, Doug McBride, once again. Doug encouraged her to stop attacking Joey so aggressively, and instead focus on supporting Vanessa and helping her break free from his influence. That advice may already be shaping Deanna's behavior, because by the end of the week, she suddenly became warm and supportive toward both Vanessa and Joey. Joey noticed the shift immediately, and I don't think he believed it for a second. Next week, Joey asks Randy Parker whether Deanna would recognize him. Randy seems confused by the question, but Joey quickly reveals that Deanna is his next job. That is a chilling statement, no matter how you interpret it. Soon afterward, Randy meets Deanna at Caffeine Fix, and surprisingly, she greets him with a hug. Maybe I am wrong, but this feels like the beginning of another one of Joey's schemes, and I can't shake the feeling that Deanna is walking into something she doesn't fully understand yet. On a much happier note, Kat and Eva appear to be recovering well after their surgeries. After competing on hospital walkers and trying to outdo each other, Kat is finally released from the hospital, which likely means Eva is heading home as well. Kat returns to her grandparents' house to an emotional surprise celebration organized by Vernon and Anita Dupree. The entire family gathers to welcome her home, creating one of those rare moments where everyone is together for something joyful instead of another crisis. Then comes the moment nobody saw coming. Tomas Navarro drops to one knee in front of the entire family and asks Kat to marry him. He calls it the honor of his life before opening the ring box, while Kat stands there completely stunned. The interesting part is that recent spoilers say both Tomas and Kat are left stunned by each other. Kat being shocked by the proposal makes perfect sense, but what leaves Tomas speechless? Maybe it is her answer. Chelsea had already warned Tomas that the timing felt wrong and tried to discourage him from proposing so soon. That warning suddenly feels much more important. Whether Kat says yes, no, or asks for time, I have a feeling this moment is going to have consequences far beyond the celebration itself. And then there are the secrets. Danny is still hiding the truth about what happened with Bill Hamilton during the tornado. That secret has not gone away, and eventually it is going to explode. At the same time, Naomi is carrying around a secret of her own. Danny seems convinced it must involve sex, which honestly feels like projection more than intuition. Guilt has a way of making people assume everyone else is hiding the same kinds of mistakes they are. The question is whether Danny is right this time, or whether Naomi's secret is something entirely different. Either way, it feels like the walls are closing in on several characters at once, and secrets in Fairmont Crest rarely stay buried for very long. Watching all of this unfold on Beyond the Gates, I keep coming back to the conversation between Naomi Hamilton Hawthorne and Danny Dupree. Naomi finally admits that she has been lying to her husband, Jacob Hawthorne, for months, and Danny's reaction feels surprisingly understanding. To me, Danny seems to recognize that when someone has been alone for so long while their spouse is away undercover, emotional confusion and complicated choices become a lot easier to understand. That immediately makes me wonder whether Naomi is eventually going to tell Danny about the BRCA gene mutation she has been hiding. I may be wrong, but I think Naomi needs to come clean to Jacob first, before she shares that secret with the Dupree side of the family. It feels like the truth belongs with her husband before anyone else. At the same time, July spoilers suggest Naomi and Jacob will finally get the chance to make up for lost time. After spending months apart because of his undercover assignment, it feels like they deserve that opportunity to reconnect and rebuild what was put on hold. Personally, I'm happy to see this couple moving back toward each other instead of further apart. Meanwhile, things are looking increasingly dangerous for Bill Hamilton, thanks to Haley Lawson. Last week, it was obvious that Haley felt threatened the moment Danny appeared at Bill's office. She could sense trouble brewing, and it seemed like she decided she needed to accelerate her plans. Adding more poison to Bill's whiskey while distracting him with flirtation and games made it clear that her endgame may be approaching much faster than anyone expected. Adding to the tension, the return of Mike Davis brings even more chaos. Mike continues pushing his lawsuit against Madison Montgomery, and despite Haley dismissing the case as unwinnable, he remains completely convinced he can come out on top. I was especially interested to see Mike sitting down with Bill, Naomi, and Madison. That setup makes me think negotiations are finally beginning. Maybe reality has started to set in for Mike, and perhaps he will return with a more reasonable settlement demand after Bill practically laughed him out of the room the last time they discussed numbers. Over at Garland Memorial, there is also a major power shift happening. Dr. Monica McCormick has stepped in as chief of staff after being approached by Vernon, while Ted's preferred candidate, Nicole, never seemed interested in the position in the first place. Monica agreed to take over temporarily, but she wasted absolutely no time establishing authority. Her first big move was confronting Dana Leslie Thomas and informing her that the hospital's partnership with Leslie's free clinic was officially over. Leslie looked stunned, and honestly, so was I. What I cannot quite figure out is Monica's motivation. Is she reacting to Leslie's connection to the Red Market scandal, or is this simply personal dislike? Leslie has never exactly hidden her hostility toward Shanice Johnson because of her relationship with Ted. I also wonder whether Leslie will immediately run to Ted for help, and whether he will feel obligated to intervene because of everything that happened with Eva. Hopefully, Ted does not lose perspective simply because they recently shared a crisis. Speaking of Ted and Shanice, another spoiler promises that they find time for romance, and I have to admit I'm rooting for them to actually enjoy that moment without interruption. As for Danny and Andre Richardson, they continue trying to move forward together, but that lingering secret remains a major obstacle. I honestly do not trust Bill to keep quiet forever. He still seems far too invested in the possibility of winning Danny back. Then again, considering Haley's current behavior, Bill may have much bigger problems before he ever gets the chance to reveal anything. Another relationship that appears to be heading in a better direction is the one between Ashley Morgan and Grayson Perez. After watching Ashley soften toward him recently, spoilers suggesting a relationship status update make me think these two are officially finding their way back to each other. Finally, there is the developing dynamic between Eva Thomas and Isaiah Hawthorne. Since Eva made it clear that she would not be moving back in with Leslie during her recovery, Isaiah has stepped into a caretaker role at home. Their upcoming negotiations should be interesting, but I think the bigger story here is the emotional connection that may grow while he helps her through recovery. To me, this feels less like a practical arrangement and more like the beginning of something deeper. Watching these two grow closer during such a vulnerable period could end up being one of the sweetest developments the show has to offer right now. I've been thinking a lot about the possibility of Tomas Navarro proposing to Kat Richardson during the week of July 6th to 10th on Beyond the Gates. And the question that immediately comes to mind is whether Kat will actually say yes. Part of me feels like a proposal makes sense, considering everything these two have been through recently. At the same time, I can't forget that only a few months ago, Tomas asked Kat to move in with him, and she turned him down because she felt the relationship was moving too quickly. Maybe I'm wrong, but jumping from refusing to live together to accepting a marriage proposal in such a short period feels like a huge leap. Of course, a lot has happened since then, and that changes the equation considerably. Their relationship has faced challenges, family drama has intensified, and Kat herself has changed through everything she has experienced. So while I can absolutely see her accepting the proposal, I keep wondering if her reasons for saying yes might be more complicated than simple romance. What really interests me is how Eva and Leslie could fit into this story. On the surface, it feels as though the feud involving Kat, Eva, and Leslie has finally cooled down. Kat literally put her own life at risk to save Eva by donating part of her liver, and moments like that usually transform relationships forever. I do think the transplant storyline pushed the sisters closer together, even if they haven't fully reached the point of complete trust and sisterly bonding yet. Still, soap operas rarely leave conflict buried for long. Leslie has been incredibly invested in seeing Eva and Isaiah move toward engagement and marriage. So I have to wonder whether watching Kat plan a wedding would stir up old resentments and reopen wounds that seemed to be healing. There was also that memorable scene in the hospital when Kat and Eva were racing each other down the hallway in their walkers while recovering from surgery. It was funny, lighthearted, and provided some much-needed comedic relief in an emotional storyline. But in daytime television, moments like that often carry a little extra meaning. I found myself wondering whether that race was actually foreshadowing their next chapter together. Could the sisters end up competing in an entirely different kind of race, a race to the altar? I don't necessarily believe Eva would openly resent Kat for getting engaged first. In fact, I think she'd probably be supportive on the surface. But if I'm being fair to the character, there could still be complicated feelings underneath. Finding out your sister is getting everything you've wanted can create emotions that even good intentions can't completely erase. Then there's Kat herself. What if accepting Tomas's proposal isn't entirely about Tomas? I keep coming back to the possibility that Kat could see an engagement as a way to get under Leslie's skin. Kat has never exactly backed away from an opportunity to win a battle, especially where Leslie is concerned. Showing off wedding plans, dress fittings, and preparations might be the perfect way to remind Leslie that she can't control the narrative. And then there's Ted Richardson. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I can absolutely imagine Kat taking satisfaction in the idea that their father would walk her down the aisle before Eva gets that chance. In a family dynamic as messy and competitive as this one, symbolic victories can matter just as much as emotional ones. That's why I think the real mystery isn't whether Kat says yes or no. The real question is why she says yes if she does. Will it be love, commitment, and a genuine desire to build a future with Tomas? Or will pride, rivalry, and family politics play a bigger role than anyone wants to admit? Knowing soap operas, the answer could easily be all of the above. I think it's fascinating that Beyond the Gates is entering its very first Daytime Emmy Awards race with this much momentum behind it. Most new daytime dramas spend years trying to gain that kind of recognition, so seeing serious awards conversations happen this early feels significant. Maybe I'm right or maybe I'm wrong, but to me, that says a lot about how quickly the show has connected with both viewers and people inside the industry. Industry expert Michael Bruno seems to share that feeling. He believes the series has several performances strong enough to earn nominations, and perhaps even wins when the 2026 Daytime Emmy nominations are announced on July 14th. At the same time, he also recognizes the challenge that comes with having such a large and talented cast. Too many actors competing in the same categories can end up hurting each other's chances. I was particularly interested in Bruno's approach to Emmy submissions. He explained that when selecting scenes for an actor's reel, he wants material that allows someone unfamiliar with the show to immediately understand both the character and the story. To me, that's a smart way of looking at awards campaigns, because voters often don't follow every single soap opera closely. If there is one performer who appears to be leading the conversation, it is Tamara Tunie. Bruno believes Anita Dupree's breast cancer storyline gives her a genuine shot not only at a nomination, but at winning Best Actress altogether. I can understand why he feels that way. The storyline arrived during the eligibility period and gave Tunie emotionally demanding material that could resonate strongly with voters. What stood out to me even more was Bruno's argument that Tunie represents both something new and something familiar at the same time. She isn't simply another name from the same rotation of nominees audiences have seen for decades, yet she also carries years of goodwill and recognition within the industry. That combination can be incredibly powerful during awards season. In the Best Actor category, Bruno expects Clifton Davis and John Lindstrom to emerge as serious contenders. Davis brings decades of experience from primetime television, while Lindstrom has long been respected for his work in daytime drama. Bruno even pointed out the reality that relationships matter in award voting. After spending more than 3 decades in the business, performers build friendships and professional respect that can influence support behind the scenes. The supporting categories may be even more competitive. Bruno views Daphne du Plessis and Trisha Mann Grant as particularly strong candidates for supporting actress honors. Meanwhile, Amber Michelle and Marquita Goings could find themselves in the conversation for emerging talent recognition. One name that surprised me was Ernestine Johnson. Under the revised guest performer rules, Bruno sees her as a legitimate contender because of the way she elevated what could have remained a relatively small role into someone audiences genuinely care about. I didn't realize how much impact a performance in a limited role could have until hearing that perspective. But the ability to leave a lasting impression with less screen time is often one of the clearest signs of a memorable actor. Ironically, the show's greatest strength may also be its biggest obstacle. Bruno described the cast as an embarrassment of riches, and I think that phrase captures the situation perfectly. When there are too many deserving performers in the same race, votes can become divided and make it harder for anyone to break through. Difficult choices have to be made about who gets submitted and where. Even so, I get the sense that the larger story here goes beyond trophies or nominations. Whether the series walks away with multiple awards or none at all, Beyond the Gates has already achieved something important for daytime television. For a brand new soap opera to generate this level of excitement, discussion, and awards attention in its first year feels like a victory in itself. I think this year's daytime Emmy race feels a little different, and maybe that's because, for the first time since 2014, there are finally 5 major daytime soaps competing again. The arrival of Beyond the Gates has changed the landscape almost immediately, and I was wondering whether the industry would embrace such a new series this quickly, or make it wait its turn, the way newcomers often have to. Traditionally, new soaps spend years trying to earn recognition from awards voters. Sometimes simply getting nominated is considered a victory. But from what some industry insiders are saying, Beyond the Gates may skip that long waiting period entirely and emerge as a serious contender right away. One thing that stood out to me was the discussion surrounding Emmy submission strategy. Apparently, having too many worthy candidates can actually become a problem. The challenge isn't just finding great performances, it's deciding which performances give voters the clearest understanding of a character and story, especially if those voters haven't been following the show regularly. I didn't realize how much strategy goes into those submission reels. The idea seems to be simple. If someone watches your scenes without any context, can they immediately understand who you are, what your character wants, and why the emotional stakes matter? If the answer is yes, you're already ahead of many competitors. When it comes to Beyond the Gates, the performance that seems to generate the most confidence is Tamara Tooney's portrayal of Anita Dupree. To me, her breast cancer storyline feels like exactly the kind of material Emmy voters traditionally respond to. Emotionally layered, deeply personal, and socially relevant without feeling exploitative. Even though much of that story unfolded in 2026, Anita's diagnosis and her decision to share that news with her family happened within the eligibility period, making the performance a legitimate contender. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can absolutely see voters gravitating toward that kind of work. There is also another factor that awards races rarely talk about openly, but everyone understands. Familiarity matters. Tamara Tooney may be relatively new to Beyond the Gates, but she is certainly not new to daytime television audiences or industry voters. Her long history in the genre means she enters this race with both credibility and goodwill already established. I think that combination of freshness and familiarity can be incredibly powerful in an award season. She's new enough to feel exciting, but familiar enough to feel like a safe choice for voters. What fascinates me even more is the idea that Beyond the Gates may actually have too much talent for its own good. The show reportedly has several actors who could legitimately compete in the same categories, and that's where the politics of award season become complicated. Vote splitting is one of those things that can quietly derail an entire campaign. If too many performers from the same show compete against each other, supporters divide their votes, and suddenly nobody from that series makes the final cut. In that sense, choosing submissions becomes less about rewarding everyone and more about identifying who gives the show its best chance to win. It's a harsh reality, but awards campaigns often require difficult decisions. Maybe the strongest strategy isn't submitting every deserving performer, but concentrating support behind one or two candidates in each category. For Best Actor, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Clifton Davis and John Lindstrom emerge as major contenders. Both bring decades of experience and industry respect, though for very different reasons. Clifton carries recognition from his work outside daytime television, while John benefits from years of goodwill built within the soap community itself. And whether people want to admit it or not, relationships matter during voting season. Awards are supposed to be about performances alone, but friendships, professional history, and long-standing respect inevitably influence outcomes. The supporting actress category may end up being one of the most competitive races involving Beyond the Gates. Daphne du Plessis delivered some of the show's most emotionally devastating material when Nicole discovered the truth about Ted's secret daughter, Eva. Those scenes carried the kind of heartbreak and vulnerability that often stays with viewers long after the episodes end. Then there's Trisha Mann Grant as Leslie, who brings an entirely different energy to the show. Leslie operates almost like chaos in human form, always ready to expose hypocrisy, exploit weakness, or stir conflict at exactly the wrong moment for everyone else involved. Characters like that can sometimes be overlooked by awards voters, but memorable antagonists often leave just as strong an impression as tragic heroes. Ultimately, I think Beyond the Gates enters this Emmy season in a fascinating position. Maybe expecting victories this early would be unrealistic. Maybe the show is simply happy to earn recognition in its first year of eligibility. But I also wouldn't be shocked if it walked away with a few trophies. For a brand new soap to arrive and immediately force its way into the awards conversation says something important about both the cast and the creative team behind it. Whether the wins come this year or later, it feels like Beyond the Gates has already announced that it intends to be part of the daytime television conversation for a very long time. I think one of the smartest decisions the Daytime Emmys made recently was creating the Best Emerging Talent category. Looking at Beyond the Gates, there are already several newcomers who could easily justify a submission there. At the same time, I understand the argument against flooding a category with too many names. If I were making the call, I probably would have focused on Amber Michelle for her work as Eva, and Marquita Goings for her portrayal of Haley. Both performances stood out to me as the kind of breakout work that this category was designed to recognize. The changes to the Best Guest Performer rules this year also create some interesting possibilities. Since performers can no longer appear in more than 19% of a show's total episodes to qualify, I was wondering if that might open the door for Ernestine Johnson, who plays Nurse Shawnice Johnson. To me, she represents exactly what a guest performer nomination should celebrate. She took what could have remained a small supporting role and turned it into someone audiences genuinely care about. Her presence feels warm and natural, and by the time her scenes are over, I find myself wanting to know more about her journey. For Best Supporting Actor, Timon Kyle Durrett feels like an obvious contender in my eyes. His portrayal of attorney Bill Hamilton gives me shades of classic television villains who are impossible to dislike completely. The comparison to J.R. Ewing makes a lot of sense to me because Bill isn't written as a straightforward villain. There's always that spark in his performances, that sense that he's enjoying the game while still revealing glimpses of humanity underneath. You can tell there's a good man somewhere beneath all the scheming, and I think that's what makes the character so entertaining to watch. Personally, I would love to see the show give him even more material. When it comes to the major categories like Best Drama Series, Best Writing Team, and Best Directing Team, I think the choice seems fairly clear. With 200 episodes available for consideration, the Anita breast cancer storyline feels like the strongest and most unified showcase of what the series can do. If I were making the submissions, I probably wouldn't split attention across multiple stories. The writing, directing, and overall production during that storyline felt focused and emotionally resonant enough to represent the show across all three categories. In the creative arts categories, I would not be surprised at all to see casting director Kim Taylor Coleman recognized. To me, one of the show's greatest strengths from day one has been its casting. The ensemble came together remarkably well for a brand new soap, and that doesn't happen by accident. Whether Beyond the Gates walks away with trophies or not, I think the show has already achieved something significant for the genre. The excitement surrounding this series goes beyond awards. The fact that a brand new daytime soap was greenlit after more than 2 decades feels important in itself. In many ways, that announcement alone may have been the biggest piece of good news daytime television has received in years. Because of that, I can easily imagine members of the industry wanting to support the show and celebrate what it represents for the future of soaps as a whole. And honestly, I think Beyond the Gates may end up winning simply by being in the room. With the 2-year renewal already secured, the daytime Emmys offer something just as valuable as awards: community. Many of the actors from the series are still building relationships within the wider daytime television world, and events like this create opportunities that can't really be replicated elsewhere. The crossover with The Young and the Restless introduced some of the cast to another soap family, but the Emmys give them the chance to connect with performers from across the genre. To me, that's part of what makes nights like these special. It's not only about who wins, it's about becoming part of a larger community, building friendships, sharing experiences, and establishing a place within the history of daytime television. For that reason alone, I think Beyond the Gates should send as many people as possible. No matter what happens when the envelopes are opened, the show has already earned its invitation to the celebration. Last week, Beyond the Gates was in rerun mode, but the week before delivered several major emotional moments that continue to shape the stories moving forward. The biggest concern centered on Kat and Eva as both fought through surgery while their family endured an agonizing wait for news. Fortunately, they pulled through, but surviving the procedure was only the beginning. The emotional fallout lingered, especially for Martin and Eva, who each wrestled with guilt in very different ways. Meanwhile, tensions continued to build around Bill, Danny, and Naomi. Naomi finally confronted Bill over what she believed was his inability to let go of Danny, while Danny herself challenged him directly. Their confrontation quickly became heated enough to draw attention, and Haley unexpectedly walked in at exactly the wrong moment. Looking ahead, I think the storyline with Madison's deposition could end up being the most important development of the week. I was wondering whether the show will actually take viewers inside a courtroom setting, or whether the major events will happen off-screen and simply be reported afterward. To me, this feels like a chance for the series to lean into the drama, rather than keeping it in the background. Monday, July 6th. Eva receives an unexpectedly touching gift from Leslie, a gesture that could further complicate their relationship moving forward. Kat and Tomas leave one another equally shocked after an encounter that appears to catch both of them completely off guard. Vanessa shares news that immediately puts Joey on edge, suggesting trouble could be brewing in their partnership. Meanwhile, Randy's newest assignment leaves him uncomfortable and uncertain about what comes next. Tuesday, July 7th. Danny, Nicole, and Vernon anxiously wait for the results of Anita's lumpectomy, bringing the family's attention back to Anita's health battle. Ava and Isaiah receive a surprise visitor, whose arrival may have larger implications than anyone expects. Chelsea steps into the role of advisor, offering guidance to her cousin during a difficult moment. Elsewhere, Deanna reconnects with an old friend, while Joey informs Vanessa that their business arrangement is changing in a way she may not welcome. Wednesday, July 8th. Kat makes an impulsive purchase that doesn't sit well with Tomas, creating fresh tension between them. Jacob and Naomi attempt to make up for lost time and reconnect after recent events. Ted and Shanice finally find an opportunity to focus on romance amid the chaos surrounding them. At the same time, Leslie and Monica clash once again, proving that some rivalries are far from over. Grayson also receives an unexpected offer that could alter his future in significant ways. Thursday, July 9th. Naomi delivers an admission that leaves both Danny and Jacob stunned, hinting at consequences that could ripple through multiple families. The week also brings major news for Anita and Vernon, as they receive an important life update from one of their grandchildren, potentially setting the stage for another major family storyline. Overall, I think this week looks less focused on shocking twists and more focused on emotional consequences and relationship shifts. If the show follows through on the deposition storyline and gives viewers some of these pivotal moments on screen, it could end up being one of the stronger weeks the series has delivered in a while. As I look ahead to the July 10th episode of Beyond the Gates, it feels like several storylines are approaching major turning points at exactly the same time. The news Samantha brings about Tyrell immediately stands out to me, because Smitty and Martin's reaction suggests this could be much bigger than a single family issue. I was wondering whether this storyline could end up connecting to a wider family crisis that affects several people at once. It also makes me question whether Naomi might finally decide to reveal her own secret to her mother. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the timing feels significant. Madison's deposition appears to be the storyline carrying the biggest potential fallout. What starts as a difficult situation seems poised to become something much worse for everyone involved. I get the impression that information could come out that nobody is prepared to deal with, and once those secrets are exposed, there may be no way to put them back in the box. Kat and Tomas continue moving through a cycle of tension and uncertainty. To me, their relationship feels as though it is heading toward a breakup, although soap operas have a way of surprising viewers at the last possible moment. It's entirely possible that there is still a twist waiting that changes everything between them. Meanwhile, Danny finds herself discussing a sensitive subject with Ashley, and that conversation could have consequences that ripple well beyond a single episode. One of the more unexpected developments comes from Leslie and Darlene reaching a new understanding. Considering where these characters have been, I didn't realize we would see common ground emerge between them so soon, which makes me curious about what may have motivated this shift. Eva's storyline may be becoming one of the most complicated on the canvas. She receives an emotional gift from Leslie that leaves June in tears, creating one of the week's more heartfelt moments. At the same time, Eva's negotiations with Isaiah suggest their arrangement is evolving into something far more personal than either of them originally intended. Whether that leads to romance, conflict, or both remains to be seen.